So today's dialogue is a part of the online educational series, online education dialogue series that we have. And we have the pleasure of having the Cornell University Civic Ecology Lab with us today. The Cornell University Civic Ecology Lab has been offering online learning programs for environmental educators, university students, and the general public since 2011. Today, we have the pleasure of inviting Dr. Marianne Krasny, as well as Dr. Yuan Li, to share different types of online education models, including high school student online research programs, environmental educational MOOCs, and undergraduate capstone courses. They will also share how they have used online course platforms, social media, webinars, and study group to create global environmental learning, teaching, and action communities. Finally, they will introduce how to incorporate environment into STEM education and show the new eSTEM education online course. Throughout this whole entire hour, feel free to ask questions in the Q&A box on Zoom, or if you're joining us via the live stream in shuetangx.com, feel free to comment. Our team will keep an eye on it, and we'll redirect the question during the Q&A section. Without further ado, I would like to introduce a couple of speakers with us. So first of all, I would like to introduce Xiao Wang, who will be sharing with us a little bit more about this dialogue series.
Dear audience, thanks for joining the event today, and it's our great honor to invite our colleagues from Cornell to jointly launch the first event of our online education dialogue. Since the breakout of the COVID-19 this year, online education has experienced a rapid development and transformation, and the various formats of online courses have come out besides MOOCs, which we're familiar with. For example, real-time online interactive courses, hybrid courses, and the combination of synchronous and asynchronous digital learning materials, etc. All kinds of innovation on online learning modes aims to engage students to deep learning and to improve their learning effects under the digital environment. Our online education dialogue, consisting of series webinars, would like to invite experts and practitioners worldwide to introduce all these innovations and their perspectives on the future of online learning and the future of education. Welcome to join our discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Xiao. So before we move on to the main section of this programming, I would like to invite the two panelists which we'll be having conversation with to say hi. I would like to give the floor to Dr. Krasny. Dr. Krasny.
Thank you, Enoch, and thank you, Xiao. So, and just thank you to everybody who's participating for welcoming Dr. Li and myself. I'm a professor at Cornell University. And as Enoch mentioned, my lab, the Civic Ecology Lab, we've been doing online courses for public audiences for a number of years. And so we welcome the opportunity to share what we've been doing with you, especially since we're not going to be able to go to China this year.
Yes, it is indeed, we all look forward for us to see each other once again after this pandemic. Thank you so much, Dr. Krasny, for joining us. I would like to then give it to Dr. Li to introduce herself and what we are doing today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting us to share our programs. My name is Yue Li, a research associate at Cornell University. I'm very happy here to, I also I develop and teach online courses for environmental educators from around the world, and also conduct research on online learning outcomes. So today we prepared a presentation along with several other of our colleagues who cannot be here live, but they also shared some of their experiences. So we're going to cover different types of modes of the online learning programs that we have been doing in the past years. And in the end, we're going to share our upcoming course, eSTEM. I also want to mention, because a lot of our online course participants are from China, so we also have Chinese TAs, teaching assistants for each course to help them. So if you are interested in the online learning teaching assistance program, I'm happy to share some of experience of that during the discussion. So maybe let's get started to see our presentation, and then we'll have some more dialogue in the end. Thank you.
Great. So I'm gonna now introduce my team from Shetang X to play the portion of the clip. And in the meanwhile, I also want to invite everyone to ask questions throughout the video in Chinese or in English, and we will do our best to answer your question. Let's start.
So my name is Marianne Krasny, and today I'm going to be talking along with my colleagues at Cornell University's Civic Ecology Lab about a bunch of different online learning initiatives that we do. And throughout all our presentations, we're going to be focusing on this theme of how can you leverage technology to build social connections between people, as well as spur action. So before I get started, I just wanted to introduce my colleagues and co-presenters. So I'm up there in the left at the top, and Annie Armstrong, a PhD student in the Civic Ecology Lab, will be presenting today, as well as Yue Li, a research associate, Shoko Shinbrat, who is a postdoc with our Active Learning Initiative, and you'll learn about that in a few minutes, Yan Mi, who's a master's student in the lab, Melanie Quinones, also a master's student, as well as Alex Kudry-Astev, who's a research associate. So we have taught 7 large online courses for environmental educators, and we get a few other people who aren't environmental educators, volunteers, just interested public in our lab. And we have students from all over the world. We usually have around between 500 and 1,000 students, or we like to think of them as participants in each course. And so you see the list, and we are going to be starting a new one this fall, which we'll also talk about a little bit later, called Environment or eSTEM Education. In addition to these large classes, we have several smaller programs or different kinds of formats that we do. So one of them is the Cornell Climate Online Fellows, which we'll be talking about in a minute, and also Ivy Online Academy, which is for high school student audiences. We'll talk about that, as well as an online community for Spanish speakers, which we will be including in the presentation. And then we did a plant-rich diet webinar series last spring. So I mentioned at the beginning that we have 2 themes that we'll be emphasizing throughout our different presentations today. One is connections, and these are really about connections between the participants in our courses, as well as between participants and the instructors. But we do think this sort of peer-to-peer social learning is very important. And then, before I go on to the second theme that I just wanted to mention, the action, is that we want to just use this theme, apply this theme of connections to you all who are joining us today. And so we have formed a WhatsApp group, and you can join it through this QR code. And if you have questions for our presenters or want to connect with our listeners today, then join our WhatsApp group, and we'll be watching it, and hopefully we can get a discussion going about online learning. We'll repeat this slide at the very end, so you'll be able to have another chance to scan that QR code. And then the second theme, so I talked about connections, the second theme is action. And people who take our courses, often their action is developing a lesson plan that reflects what they've learned in the course. But some of our courses, there's more a direct action. So for example, in our climate change courses, the participants in the course, they might choose to do a plant-rich diet or reduce their meat consumption. So these are just examples of actions from participants in our courses and our other online learning initiatives, and you'll learn more about different kinds of actions as well as connections throughout our presentation today. So if you look at the bottom on the right, you'll see connections, and these are just sort of a little bit more in depth about how we think about connections. We call these our online learning principles.
So we try to be very accessible as instructors. I mentioned social learning. And then we try to form ongoing professional networks that continue through social media after our courses. I mentioned actions. We call it solution-oriented. Our courses are solution-oriented. And then there's two new ones here on the left. So being at Cornell, we do conduct research on online learning, and we try to make sure that our courses reflect the latest research. And then we have a strong commitment to equitable access. And that has to do with the technology. So for example, a lot of people, we do webinars during our classes. If they're from a region or a country where they don't have high-speed internet, they can't access our webinars. So we rebroadcast them on WhatsApp, which a lot of people seem to have in developing countries. And then we also do have a charge for many of our courses and initiatives, but we realize a lot of people can't pay, so there's a sliding scale, and some people actually are not able to pay at all. Everybody gets the same instruction, regardless of what they're able to contribute towards our initiative, and we use the money to pay our instructors. And so this is my last slide before I turn it over to Marianne, but this is what we're going to be talking about today. You'll see that we have 7 presentations, and I won't go into them because you'll see them in a minute. And then at the end, Alex Kudryashchev will be tying it all together, and then we'll show you the trailer for our eSTEM education course that's coming up in October of this year. So thank you. Now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Marianne.
Thank you, Dr. Krasny. Hi, everyone. I'm Marianne, a master's student at Civic Ecology Lab and the founder of IB Online Academy. Here, I would like to share a case to engage students in online research with industry partners. IB Online Academy aims to provide affordable and high-quality online research programs that will enrich high school students' college applications and inspire their future endeavors. Last summer, we were accepted by Cornell Student Startup Accelerator eLab. We kicked off our pilot online research programs this summer, from social sciences and information sciences to environmental sciences. Over 350 students from both the US and China took our online programs. By this initiative, we want to make research opportunities more accessible and affordable for high school students with different backgrounds to promote education equity and inspire next generation scientists. We structure our programs into 3 stages. In stage 1, learn the basics. Students will learn the fundamentals of scientific research methods. Our courses will familiarize high schoolers with concepts and terms applied in the research. After they master the basic skills, they will move on to the stage 2, solve a real case of case studies that span multiple disciplines, such as economics, healthcare, and public policy. By using established data from government organizations and published research articles, students will be able to apply their knowledge and techniques from stage 1. After practicing with our case study examples, in stage 3, students can work with our instructional team one-on-one to get feedback and advice on their own research project. I'm going to use one of our programs, Eco-Solution Greenhouses, as an example. This past summer, we launched stage 1 and stage 2 of this program. 65 students from both the US and China enrolling in our program. In stage 1, learn the basics. Students spend 3 weeks studying the ecology, structure, and function of agroforestry system across field, greenhouse, and ponic systems. We offered our 2-week stage 2 case study part with our industry partner, Trela Urban Forestry Technology, LLC. Trela has a large-scale greenhouse in Taizhou, China, to cultivate tree seedlings for urban forestry in Chinese cities. During the program, we used Canvas to hold our course materials, including recorded video lectures, reading materials, assignments, and quizzes. We also have weekly webinars where students from different places can meet with each other and talk to our instructors from Cornell and the company. Here is an example of an American high school student's final presentation of stage 2. In this stage, students applied their knowledge in greenhouse science and infrastructures to propose solutions to real environmental issues in the experiment. Mass engineering greenhouse humidity reduction. Using Trellis greenhouse facility in China as a virtual lab and resource pool, students identified their own research questions, developed hypotheses, analyzed data, and used scientific analysis to craft and justify solutions to environmental problems commonly faced in greenhouses. All participants submitted a final report and presented their findings to a panel of fellow students and Cornell researchers. In our first cohort of this program, our students spoke highly of our program. One student even started their own greenhouse in her backyard. We will start this course again in November. Please visit our website to know more. In the future, Aviana Academy will develop more environment-related research programs for high school students and even for younger kids to inspire their interest in science and research. I hope our case and program structure can help you in your research-oriented environmental education programs. Now, I would like to hand it over to Shoko.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shoko. I'm a postdoc here at Cornell in the Department of Natural Resources and Environment. And I'm here to talk to you about the active learning in an online setting. The Active Learning Initiative here at Cornell was founded in 2013, and it's a cross-departmental initiative. And it's designed to support departments in redesigning their courses away from lecture to implementing research-based active learning strategies. So there are a number of active learning strategies that can easily be implemented in the classroom as well as online. So for instance, polling is a very popular active learning strategies with things like Poll Everywhere, where students can select from a range of multiple choice questions or even short answer questions, which will present a word cloud. And it has a range of functionalities. There are Think, Pair, Shares, which you can do in Zoom breakout rooms where you put students in groups of 2 to discuss a topic and then bring them to the full class to share as a group. There are things like team research projects where students can use communication platforms like Slack. And there are also, of course, student-led discussions, which is easily implemented on Zoom, or peer review for papers or proposals that students can submit via peer grade for different kinds of comments to improve their writing. In our class, in the Department of Natural Resources, we have climate solutions. And students take an action as part of a global community. They evaluate climate actions from Project Drawdown and explore different climate policies. And some of the active learning strategies that we use in this class include team-based projects. So students with similar solutions will work together using social science theory to implement a solution from Project Drawdown. There are student-led discussions on case studies in social science research. There is peer review of student climate policy briefs. And of course, throughout the class, there's also polling throughout on central concepts. So this is all great, but what are the benefits of active learning? There are many. These are just a few of them, but it includes reinforcing knowledge, building a classroom community where students feel comfortable with talking to each other, developing self-esteem where students can feel confident in discussing issues like climate change, providing transferable skills like being able to make a presentation, and then increasing motivation to complete their coursework and engagement within the class. And we asked students last year what their preferred learning style was, and 79% said that they preferred this mix of lecture and active learning. which gives credence to the importance of active learning in both in-person and online classes. So at this point, I will hand it back over to Marianne. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shoko. So Shoko mentioned that she taught the Climate Solutions course, and she is teaching it again. And then we decided also to make this into a capstone course where students would get an opportunity to do an in-depth project with a community partner. And we got funding from Engage Cornell, which is a program at Cornell that tries to get undergraduate students and graduate students and faculty working with community partners in very meaningful, longer-term partnerships. So similar to the Climate Solutions course that Shoko just talked about, our students choose a climate solution from Drawdown, and then they use the social influence research like social mobilization, social norms, social marketing to try to convince or persuade or influence anyway one of their social networks to implement that action alongside them. So it's a way of scaling up from I'm going to do plant-rich diet, but I'm going to invite my friends over also, or ask my family to also do plant-rich diet. So we're trying to scale up a little bit individual action, and everybody has a small network of family or friends that they might be able to convince people to reduce food waste or maybe bike alongside them more to work. So in the capstone course where we have the community partners, and I'll just mention them in a minute. So the students do two projects. They do the Drawdown Action Project, which could be plant-rich diet, but it could be something totally different. But then they all, with the partners, they do a plant-rich diet project. And that includes producing educational materials, but the fun part is that we're also going to be collecting and taste testing plant-rich recipes with family and friends, and then hopefully getting some recipes that we can also share with our partners, and they can put up on the web or Instagram or wherever. So if you have some recipes, make sure that you get on that WhatsApp group and share them with us. So just who are our partners? We have Headwater Food Hub, which is a regional provider of local foods, and they've done a fantastic job in adapting to the current COVID issue. They used to just distribute to schools, which actually is fantastic, schools, and to retailers, but now they're doing door-to-door delivery to people's homes. We have a partner, Cornell Cooperative Extension in Warren County. And then we have a really interesting partner. I don't know if you can search them. They're Veg Planet that does some really, really creative stuff with plant-rich diet on WeChat in China. And then we have another partner, Sustainable Tapas, which is a new startup in Europe. And they started in Barcelona. And they're also trying to promote education about plant-rich diet. Okay, so that was the Climate Solutions capstone course. That's an engaged course, as I mentioned, with partners. And now I'm going to talk about our Cornell Climate Online Fellowship. So we've done all these large classes, as I mentioned in the beginning, with like 500 or 1,000 students. And we decided we really wanted to try having a small group of highly selected students. Or we called them fellows, and it was longer too. Our courses tend to be 5 weeks. This one was 12 weeks. And we had a really big applicant pool. We've done it twice, both times, but we had about 600 applicants, and we chose about 30, 35 applicants or fellows. And this is the first time we offered it, and we had 31 countries represented. So you can just see some of the fellows there from the Philippines. We had a fellow from Yemen, which was really amazing. Kenya, and then our great fellow, Gail Woon from the Bahamas. So similar to the course, they do choose a drawdown action. And I have plant-rich diet up here, but again, they can choose other things, other kinds of solutions or actions from drawdown. And then also they work with one of their social networks, family, friends, colleagues, to try to implement that action, not just themselves, but with their colleagues. So we call that network climate action. They're applying social influence research to influence their social network to take a climate action. So one of the things that I just wanted to mention, in addition to the action, is that these fellowships we formed, I don't think any of us have met each other. Some of them I've met since after the fellowship because they visited Cornell, or I met them when I was traveling. But we became a very, very tight-knit group just from our weekly webinars, and we had a very active WhatsApp group. And I just wanted to mention, this is Gail from the Bahamas again, who has launched Earth Care like 30 years ago. She's been doing this in the Bahamas, an environmental organization. But being in the Bahamas, she's suffered from catastrophic hurricanes. And so this is just, if you look at the WhatsApp there, you can see that while she's been experiencing these hurricanes, a lot of our fellows have come back and gone on WhatsApp, and she's been posting about what her situation is, and we've been trying to pray for her and just offer her encouragement. And so it's kind of amazing, I guess, what you can do online. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Annie Armstrong.
Thanks, Marianne. So I'm going to be presenting today on the climate change online course that we developed in the Civic Ecology Lab in partnership with Cornell Cooperative Extension and the Cornell Institute for Climate Smart Solutions. So over a couple years, we developed a 6-week online course that we ran four times, and we really focused on climate change. It was a massive open online course, so we had, the first time we ran it, we had 1,500 participants, and we had hundreds of participants the other times we ran it from all over the world. And so we covered basic climate change science, climate change communication, climate solutions, and then, but the project over the course of the course was developing a plan to take a climate action. And so we used, in terms of the technology that we used for the course to both facilitate the action project and social connections, we used a course platform called edX Edge, but there are plenty of other massive open online course platforms out there, like Coursera or edX or Udacity. So this was just the one that we happened to use. And then we did a lot with social media on Facebook, WhatsApp, and WeChat with course-devoted groups or pages. And these were the places where participants did a lot of really dynamic interaction and discussion and sharing of resources. Whereas the course platform was really where they did their required course elements, like watching lectures and doing the readings and doing some required discussion posts and quizzes. But the final product for the course was this climate change action plan. And so one of the goals of our goals for the course were really climate literacy, climate action, and building participant connections. And so this is what we did when we were doing some of our course evaluation at the very end. We looked at some of our course participant network data, and so this is on the bottom on the x-axis. We have the number of participants with whom individuals connected from 0 to 10, and then the y-axis is the number of participants who connected with that number of participants. So you had almost 400 people who connected with at least one person during the course, and then down here at the other end of the spectrum, we have close to 100 people who connected with at least 9 other people over the course of the course. So we can see that the course did help people make connections. And in terms of action, we saw people make plans to take a diverse range of actions, from individual plans to change commuting behavior to we had a lot of education related action plans, people who were doing climate related research and afforestation projects, people who are trying to create local policy or influence local policy. So there was a whole host of actions that people took or planned to take through the course. And people found that part of the course was really rewarding. So, for example, this person said that the biggest thing I took from it was the push to make an action plan. And then this other quote is from somebody in our course evaluation who said that having information in front of me reminded me of the urgency of the issue, and I took the bus to work a lot more during the duration of the course, and I hope to continue to do so. And then in terms of that continue to do so, I have had emails from many participants who have said that they've continued to work on their climate action plan after the course has been over. And we did continue to connect via Facebook, also that course Facebook page, for a while after the courses were over. That continued to be a place to connect and to share information. So I am now going, thank you very much. I am now going to pass the torch over to Melanie.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you for your presentation. So I'm just going to jump really quickly to say that we already know that panels and webinars have been very trending and very popular at this stage because they're a very useful tool for learning online. And so I'm going to talk about my experience on creating a panel, specifically in civic ecology for Spanish-speaking countries. And so the reason why we wanted to create this panel is because we really wanted to strengthen our bonds and connections with Latino community and Spanish-speaking countries. And so we really decided, well, let's do it as a panel because it was very trending at the moment, and it was right when COVID started. So I think this was a very great opportunity for us to connect. It took around 3 months since the beginning of our e-introductions and creating the structure and objectives of the panel, which each of the presenters. So I think this was a very collaborative experience of having all the panelists contributing to the idea of what we wanted to create and how we wanted the panel to be. And so at the end, we decided, after the 3 months of organizing and just connecting bi-weekly and sometimes weekly, and having a lot of dialogues and conversations, we decided to create the panel to the idea that we wanted to share some examples of how civic ecology is contextualized in Latin American countries. So how civic ecology is practiced, but at the same time, how it differs from experiences that have already happened in North American countries. So having a very diverse way to see civic ecology. And so we were not hurried, we just wanted to really focus on the quality of the presentation. And during that presentation and the panel, as you can see, that's the promo in the picture, we had 6 panelists. All of them were in the area of environmental education, but also in policy and management and practice. And it was a very nice experience. We had 6 panelists, 1 moderator, and we had around 70 participants in the panel. It was a very good conversation, very engaging experience. A lot of people were talking through the chat and asking questions, and also like challenging ourselves to really define and redefine definitions of civic ecology. And so that was a very great experience. But I think the most important part is the aftermath of what happened after the panel, because we really created these strong bonds through the process of planning and really sharing how we wanted to create this. After the panel, we decided to continue our conversations through WhatsApp to informal and informal meetings. So we have been continually meeting since that moment, so around 6 months from now. And at this point, we have created very strong bonds with each other. And so we have created a community of practice, a community of learning for Spanish-speaking people, in which we present different topics related to environmental education that are very novel. And we want to share our thoughts on how we see it through our lenses, through our experiences from different parts of the world. But at the same time, we sometimes take the space to talk about our personal experience and how we are doing with each other, and just creating a very supporting network of people. So I think the next steps and what we are trying to create is just formalizing this online community and thinking about how we can keep collaborating in a way that everyone feels comfortable. So having that experience of, building these strong bonds and building connections have really helped to have a very nice experience through time. So below you will see the link to the video and to the panel, so you can access through YouTube and see how is the experience. But I think the most important takeaway for me through this experience is that yes, you can create very personal bonds, and even just by having one formal experience such as a panel you can continue creating ideas and sharing ideas how you want to expand your community. So I really encourage everyone that is interested in this kind of experience that start creating these bonds and continually communicate with the people that you're already working with. So thank you, everyone. Now I'm going to pass it to Yue for her presentation.
Hi, everyone. I'm Yuli, Research Associate in the Civic Ecology Lab at Cornell. I'm going to share how social media and the study groups play a role in online learning. Social media groups provide opportunities for participants to have informal interactions, which can help enhance participants' sense of community, as well as their connections with instructors. Here, I'm going to share 3 examples used in our online learning. Some people may not like Facebook, but we create closed private groups for only the course participants to share and exchange ideas. Facebook group is particularly useful for themed discussions because once somebody makes a new comment, the post will show up to the top. So it's very easy to follow and have conversations under the same post and topic. And the WhatsApp group is particularly useful for sharing audio clips and slides during webinar presentations in addition to interactions among participants themselves. Because some participants, especially in African and Asian countries, may have difficulty to access Zoom video stream, which takes a lot of data. So using WhatsApp makes live sessions accessible and can engage participants in the live chat, even they cannot join Zoom directly. Further, the instant message feature can foster interactive discussions among participants as well as instructors. And a third example is WeChat. WeChat group is the most popular tool among Chinese participants. It's very similar to WhatsApp group. Participants join instant chat and share text, photos, and videos. We also organize weekly roundtables during the course to engage participants in discussion about the course topics. Through these informal conversations and sharing, participants inspire each other to take actions. For example, plant-rich diet, reuse, and recycling. You may choose to use different social media depending on your audience preferences, such as Slack, as Shoko mentioned earlier. So although most of the learning is happening online, having these face-to-face interactions, if possible, can also help strengthen sense of community among participants, as well as support each other to overcome technical, language, and conceptual barriers. We usually encourage online course participants to form those local study groups to connect with each other in the same city or region. For example, during the Urban Environmental Education online course, participants got together in a local cafe in Beijing every week to discuss the course content. Sometimes they took turns to present their own projects and got feedback from each other. In the photo on the left, a participant brought some children's book to share and proposed a collaboration on projects together. In the photo on the right, participants in the US organized workshops for their own communities to expand the impact of online learning to local connections. So in addition to the connections, local study groups can also foster actions. For example, course participants in Civic Ecology online course organized a cleanup activity in a park in Beijing. And the participants in Environmental Education online course organized a citizen science trip with the bird banding activity locally. So in sum, the study groups can help connect participants in the same area to exchange ideas, form partnerships, and take actions together. Thank you. And now I'm going to hand it over to Alex to summarize.
Thank you, Yura. Hi, everybody. I'm Alex Kudryavtsev, a research associate at the Cornell University Civic Ecology Lab. Thanks also to all of my colleagues who just presented all of our teaching and learning initiatives designed for all kinds of audiences. With varying degrees, all of these initiatives that you see on the screen are combining two principles that Marianne mentioned in the beginning: connections and actions. So connections is, as you've seen in all of these initiatives, is about building peer-to-peer, providing peer-to-peer learning opportunities, social learning, which often happens when we build trust and social capital among participants. Knowledge creation, co-creation, innovation. I feel like miracles happen when you connect people with each other and help them innovate and develop new ideas for the environment. And the second principle that you've seen in all of these learning initiatives is actions, and it's all about developing, it's bringing your ideas to action, and it can be from something little as developing your lesson plans to and applying a theory to your practice, to improve your practice, to involving larger communities, your local communities and your peers and friends into implementing stewardship actions and initiatives. At the same time, these two large principles are also grounded in other principles and civic ecology lab philosophy that we see on this slide, anything from active learning, equality and equity, solution-oriented learning, research-based action, fostering professional networks and student-instructor mentorship and collaboration. We are committed to implement these two principles, connections and actions, in our future learning initiatives as well. You can join our future upcoming course, eSTEM Education, which is designed for teachers and non-formal educators who want to help students become scientifically literate environmental citizens. So teachers in this course will learn how to integrate environmental education into STEM classes such as biology and earth science. And non-formal educators will learn how to make science part of nature and environmental education programs. So if you join this course, you will learn about how inquiry-based learning, project-based learning, and other active learning pedagogies can be implemented in your teaching. And you can apply what you will learn to develop your own eSTEM lesson plans. So we invite you to sign up for this course now, or recommend it to your colleagues who may be interested. And now let's watch a short course trailer for this new eSTEM online course. If you are a teacher, a museum or zoo educator, a parent or a community member, and you want to help young people become scientifically literate environmental citizens, we invite you to take the eSTEM online course with Cornell University.
eSTEM combines two ideas. E stands for the environment, and STEM means science, technology, engineering, and math. You can use the environment as a fun pathway to STEM learning, or use STEM subjects to inform students' environmental actions. The eSTEM online course integrates environmental and science learning. You learn how to guide students in systems thinking, scientific inquiry, environmental behaviors, and more.
eSTEM brings together isolated subjects like physics and biology and applies them to solving the real-world environmental challenges we face every day. With eSTEM, your students become motivated to learn about topics relevant to their lives and communities.
You will learn how your students can become scientists. They will ask scientific questions, make hypotheses, and conduct investigations. You'll also find out how your students can become environmentalists. They will identify environmental problems and address them using scientific methods. You will nurture the next generation of scientifically literate environmental citizens.
Our understanding of eSTEM is advancing every day as we adopt evidence-based teaching approaches, apply science learning standards, learn from successful eSTEM practices, and share our teaching experiences.
Join the eSTEM online course. You will become part of a global community of educators who are taking Cornell University online courses. And you will enhance eSTEM education in your schools, organizations, families, and communities.
Oh, wow, great. Thank you so much for Civic Ecology Lab for sharing this incredible programming with us. For the next part, I would like to welcome back our panelists. I would like to first introduce Marianne Krasny. Dr. Krasny is a professor in the Department of Natural Resources and Environment, and she is the director of Civic Ecology Lab at Cornell University. Thank you for joining us. And the second of the panelists is Yue Li. So Dr. Li is a research associate and the online course director at Cornell University. Thank you for joining us as well. I was asked to share also is that in addition to Zoom, this programming dialogue has been also broadcast to xuetangx.com as well as Rain Classroom to middle school teachers and interested students from across China and around the world as well. And at the same time, I would like to also ask if you have any questions, feel free to drop us a comment either in the Q&A section or the comment section, and we do our best in the next 20 minutes to answer your questions. Thank you. I would like to kick us off. So it was an incredible, diverse programming that has been offered. As an educational practitioner, something that was very, very interesting is that I would like to ask a question from my side, and then there's other questions too. I'm very interested to understand a little bit more of what drove you, either of you personally, or as Cornell Civic Ecology Lab to begin this online journey of environmental education courses. In the introduction, I understand that this journey started in 2011. It's quite early on, before all the edX, Coursera has started. So I'm very, very interested to understand first why, why choose environment and why online, and if there were any sort of critical factors that was driving this decision and behind this, expansion of programming that has been offered. Dr. Krasny, would you like to give us your thoughts on this?
Sure. So back in the early 2010s, Dr. Li and I and some of our other colleagues were we were the PIs, or the sort of leaders of what's called the North American Environmental Education Training Program, which receives funding from the US government, the Environmental Protection Agency. And we were supposed to be providing professional development training for educators across the US, Canada, and Mexico. And so we started, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, with what we call the Global Environmental Education course, which was our first course. We use Canvas, Yue? That one?
Yeah. Before that, we had some smaller courses for 20, 30, and then we expanded to thousands because of collaboration with scholars around the world.
Yeah, so that's true. So before that, we had what we call professional learning communities, and those were about 25 people, and they worked intensively on a product. And you heard from Alex Kudryav's stuff today, and he led a number of these where they did a collaborative writing assignment. So if you go on to Civic Ecology Lab website, you can see it was Urban Environmental Education. I think that's the name of the publication. And also, we have several publications with a similar name, but this one, pardon?
And also measuring environmental education outcomes. So a few.
Measuring environmental, and then we also had the one in environmental education en Espanol, so for our Spanish-speaking colleagues in the US and Mexico in particular. So, I wanted to mention this, thank you, Yue, for reminding me, because it's an interesting model where you work intensively with 25 people over, say, a semester, and that you capture their programs and put it into an online book, essentially an ebook that we self-published. So, and then I don't know, Yue, I'll give you a chance. I don't know if you want to go on to the Global EE course.
I just want to add, we started with the smaller courses, and then also the reason behind that is because educators are very busy, right? They don't have time to just go to school for a whole semester. So we thought online learning provides an opportunity for them to, continue education when they have free time. So it's flexible. So that's why we started those online learning. And then later on, because of collaboration with a lot of scholars around the world, we were able to develop a global online course on environmental education. So I think we involved about 30 or more than 30 universities around the world to develop that course. So after that, we continue to develop more online courses because of the interest, and also want to thank a lot of our Chinese partners. Because of the great interest from China, we got some funding from Tsinghua University to do research, online learning research, from Alibaba Foundation to translate our materials into Chinese. So we get expanded to Chinese audience, as well as Chinese TAs, teaching assistants, as I mentioned earlier. So that's how we moved from smaller to global online learning communities. Yeah.
Great to also see the global community side. That's right.
Yeah, I just want to mention, we also then got funding from Cornell to do an edX, MOOC on the edX platform. That was more based on environmental stewardship and civic ecology.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Then we'll definitely recommend our viewers to check out the MOOC on edX as well. So we touched on the idea of global community, and I just saw a question that came in from Zoom, the Q&A section, and I thought it was an excellent section to move from, to go back to our the topic of today about community and action. So this attendee asked, so when these online courses are over, there will be a potential ways to stimulate participants in various social networks to maintain their involvement in climate change action. Is there a long-term stimulus intervention? So from what my understanding is, so how do we translate community into action? This is an excellent question. I was wondering if Dr. Lee or Dr. Krasny have any thoughts to share.
Do you want to start out on this one, and then I'll go?
Yeah, sure. This is a great question. So yeah, during the course, because of the course timeline and the assignments, people are very engaged, interactive. After the course, it depends. Sometimes, especially social media groups, because everyone uses the WeChat. Everyone has millions of the groups, so it's really hard to keep in track. But we try to offer some kind of like the webinars once for a while, and also keep sharing resources in those social media groups, just to try to keep the conversation going. So we don't expect people as interactive as during the course, but still, we try to keep that conversation going. And sometimes the course participants, if they implement something and apply the course materials into the real programs that they will share, or if they got a big grant or awards, they would share in the social media groups, and the people would support and then to encourage each other. So we saw those happen, but sometimes it will be it could be quiet for a while. So it really depends on facilitators, us, to put efforts and time to keep it going. So Marianne, do you have anything else? Anything else?
Yeah, we have on the U.S. and we have, well, I'll just say those that access WhatsApp and Facebook, we have, I follow that, but unfortunately I can't follow what's going on WeChat. So I think UA covered that a little bit, but I think there's a lot of activity on WeChat. But on the Facebook side, for that global environmental education course that UA mentioned, we opened up our Facebook group to anybody afterwards. And so now we have like 11, 12,000 members on that group. But the other course Facebook groups and the WhatsApp group, we haven't opened up. So they get occasional posts by those who participated in the courses. I think I mentioned we did this fellowship also with, well, I mentioned we did the project learning communities, but more recently we've done a fellowship, which is more similar to the project learning communities, in that we only have about 35 participants, and we work very intensively with them for 12 weeks. And that group, I feel like, is more active and keeps, supporting each other more than the larger courses, which tend to be a little bit, you know, there's so many people that it's really harder to establish relationships. I think the other way we keep going is that a lot of people take our courses over and over again, so we get to know them. We might do some collaborative writing with them. And so we're, you know, I feel like I'm friends with a number of people because they keep coming back and communicating with us and telling us what they're doing and advertising on our social media when they're doing workshops and so forth.
Yeah. And I also saw a comment from Gail Wu, who is a climate fellow. Thank you so much for your comment. She mentioned that she was a climate change fellow and she's still continuing involvement in the climate action, and it's become a part of her life. And she just did a Zoom meeting last week on climate change. So we saw a lot of those fellow students keep doing work and then keep engaged with us.
Yeah, yeah. And Gail's from Bahamas. I'm not sure if you mentioned that.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. This is indeed a very touching message as well. And there's another question that came in. It looks like it's from a student. So he or she is looking to learn more about, you know, environment and STEM. And this person wonder, like, what is the major difference or advantages in learning online and learning in person throughout all these different programs that you have done. And also throughout this pandemic as well, we have all learned to become familiar with also learning online too. So so I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about you know, learning or even, you know, teaching for the teacher who are online and joining us now, teaching eSTEM online or in person. What is the major advantages, and how could we better link between online and offline? How do you make those transition as well? I was wondering if Dr. Krasny or Dr. Lee have any thoughts to share.
Marianne?
Well, I'll start on this one, if that's okay. So for one thing, I'm teaching an undergraduate course online, as we mentioned, I think, in the video, and a capstone course. And I find that one of the advantages, I think, is that there's more opportunities to be engaged. So if you're in a lecture listening to a professor, you might be on your phone because you're bored, or, you know, double multitasking, etc. But when you're teaching online, you can put some of that energy to the chat. If you're a person that has a hard time, I think all of us maybe have a hard time sort of, you know, listening to one thing where you're going back and forth. And so in some senses, and I think you could think of other examples, like shy students might be more willing to type something in than to raise their hand in class. So I think in some ways you can connect more. The thing that I find interesting is that we have about 30 students in the class, but because they often don't have their video on, I feel like I wouldn't recognize any of them if I saw them on campus. And I do feel like it's a little harder to get to know the students. So we know the ones that are most communicating with us, I guess. And then in terms of the technology online and in person, I know in China you're starting, or maybe you have a bunch of citizen science programs. I actually have some links if somebody's interested, I could share them, but anybody could search this. So I think particularly in water quality, but if you're doing an online course, and I don't know how much social distancing you're practicing still in China. I think maybe you're not anymore because you guys have handled the virus so well, but certainly a lot of the citizen science you could do as a group, but you can also do on your own. And when we did the big online courses, we had local groups who met in person, and maybe you want to talk about the Beijing group who actually, they took the course online, but met in person and even did some activities together.
Yeah, yeah, I can mention that in the presentation, but I just, yeah. And I also just want to add, you know, especially for the eSTEM course, because, you know, environmental education used to rely a lot on experiential learning, hands-on activities, but we try to incorporate new technology in those STEM education, eSTEM environmental education. So I think online learning also provides a great opportunity to incorporate technology in learning. So technology can help students get engaged. So some parents, teachers may not like students staring at the screen, but think about if you use it as a helpful, a more helpful way to use this technology. There are a lot of citizen science apps to help students identify trees, plant, flowers, birds. So if you engage kids or students by using those type of apps to learn about the nature, the environment, that could be much useful and helpful. And also it could be make them learning fun and meaningful. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's very, very interesting and very insightful as well. And talking about how we really maximize the power of technology. I'm very conscious of time, so I have one more question, and feel free if anyone else want to ask a question, that's your last chance before we go offline and continue in another occasion. So I have one more question which came in and talk about, since 2011, that's been a long, almost a decade. Is there any lessons that either of you would like to share with educational practitioners as they are trying to learn from, in this beyond this pandemic era, when conducting, classes online? Is there any lessons that you like to offer to teachers or to anyone throughout this journey?
Well, I'll just name two things. One, I think if you can have smaller groups of students that work together on a project, or just are communicating, like we have had a number of small groups in our big courses, and now we have 4-person teams in our Cornell course. And I feel like students sometimes when they're in these smaller groups, they form connections that continue afterwards, and it can be more meaningful for them. And then the other thing I would say is that we like to think of our courses as courses for a cause. So not just learning, but how can we have the participants in our courses actually do some action, whether it's a climate change action or maybe an action related to their teaching if they are teachers already. So we feel like the social interactions are super important, and there's so many great technologies that you can reinforce those social interactions, even if you're just going online. And then also, I think Enoch mentioned earlier that there's a lot of interest in climate change. So, how can we get these large networks sometimes of people that we reach through our online courses to take climate actions such as those that are on the Drawdown website, like reducing food waste and a plant-rich diet. So thank you.
And I would like to add 3 points. I think the first one is online learning doesn't mean just to put resources online. So in person, maybe students can stay in class for 45 minutes because there's a face-to-face interaction. However, online, it's really hard to keep students to watch a video lecture for 45 minutes. So you think you have to switch, the pedagogy and think about how to make the online learning more effective, make the videos shorter, just to keep on the key points, and then keep students engaged. That's first thing. And the second thing is social presence, or like teacher presence. So online, like Marianne mentioned, sometimes you don't feel that kind of the connection. So the teachers have to be more engaged to make comments to students' posts and let students feel they are part of this community. So strengthen, enhance the sense of a community among students themselves. And also teachers should give students feedback immediately. Try to give students feedback as more often. And the third one is I would say feedback and evaluation. So because we not only teach courses, but we also do evaluation research. So always try to understand how your students are learning, how they feel, not just learning, but how they feel. Do they feel comfortable about learning online? And then how, do they have feedback? And then you adjust your teaching approach along the way. So I hope those are helpful. And then there are many other kind of the strategies that we'd be happy to connect and discuss more in, if you contact us. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the sharing. I actually had another question, but I feel like both of you have answered this perfectly. Another question was asked about how do you keep students motivated throughout online courses and throughout online means. That's a very tough task. And it, when Dr. Krasny mentioned about facilitating partnerships with different communities, not just within, but also external to the course with external relevant communities outside. And when Dr. Lee mentioned about the importance of feedback, and I think that's very important. It's an iterative process as well. So I guess we're coming to a close. I was wondering if Dr. Krasny has any final words that you would like to share with us.
No, just, we would love to learn more about what you're doing in China, because I know you guys are really, really forward thinking on the technology and online learning. So hopefully we can continue the discussion, and thank you very much for participating today and for inviting us.
Thank you so much thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights. We do look forward to reconvening again, either in person or online in the very near future. And for Dr. Lee, one very obvious question is, there are students here who are interested in this eSTEM program. Would you like to remind us again, what should those students do?
Oh, yeah, sure. I put my email address in the chat, and also put our WeChat account, official account is Cornell CEL. So just look for us on WeChat, and then you can get more information about the course. And I look forward to having more you in our course, and so we can continue sharing and interacting with each other. I also want to wish everyone luck. And no matter if you are teaching online or you are learning online, just to find different ways to be engaged.
Perfect, wonderful. I would like to, on behalf of Tsinghua University, I would like to thank again Dr. Krasny as well as Dr. Lee for your time and for valuable insights throughout this period. For anyone who is interested in the eSTEM education course, you know what to do. Go on WeChat and search for Cornell CEL, and we will follow up also with the channel of rewatching this again, and also what to do in terms of follow-up. Thank you once again. Have a great morning for those who are in the US, and have a great evening for those who are in China. See you again.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Well, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.